All right, everybody, welcome back to the newest episode of the Beer and Skittles podcast. If you guys didn't hear last week, we went over DC and their entire universe as they had just came out a little bit ago about what they're going to be doing cinematically. And this week we're going to be doing Marvel. So go back, watch that episode if you haven't, so that you can see a really good compare and contrast about what the two biggest comic companies in the world are doing cinematically, and just the huge difference that they have between them. DC basically starting from the ground up again, and Marvel being kind of on this full stride of the race, and we're seeing maybe a little bit of a stumble to their step. So we're going to be going over a lot of our concerns, questions, comments, and hopefully future predictions for the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I can see Marvel stumbling right now. I am slightly concerned for Marvel going forward, more so than I am DC and them starting over. You know, they're starting over. The sky's the limit. I mean, they can go anywhere with it. Marvel, on the other hand, the last few movies and even some of the shows have just been mid.
Yeah, I mean, definitely lackluster performances from Marvel, and I feel like the audiences are starting to catch on. Like, if you're paying attention to some critic reviews, as well as looking into a lot of just, on social media, what the fans are talking about, and it feels like you're not getting the same hit that you did in probably the past couple phases. But I also feel like there's a point to it to where it's almost as if they're starting again. You still have a lot of your, hero characters, like Ant-Man has been here, Thor has been here, but a lot of the main characters that we got to know and love are either taking a back seat now, or they transferred off screen. And if you remember Phase 1 of Marvel, it brings back a lot of nostalgia because it was the first thing that was happening like this, and everybody was running with it. But a lot of those Phase 1 movies really weren't all that great. Going back into Iron Man 2.
Listen.
They still have good ones.
Let me just. I need to stop this narrative that exists that Iron Man 2 is a bad movie, because it's not. The Iron Man suit up scene where he's on the racetrack with the suitcase suit, phenomenal. It's one of the coolest transformations in Iron Man. Whiplash is a good villain. It's not a bad movie. We have to stop this. You want to talk about a problem child? It's Iron Man 3.
But I also don't think it's a good movie.
Yeah, but it's not the worst movie. It's like, people look at Marvel, right? They look at
what I'm not
Marvel
saying
has
it's
done in the past movies.
The worst. I don't think it's one of the worst. I mean, we were getting into this debate earlier in the week about the worst superhero movies, and there's a long list of ones that people forget.
There is, and I'm not saying that people treat Iron Man 2 like it's the worst movie.
But it's not what we're saying about the current movies either.
No, but people look at some of the Marvel movies and they don't consider them the worst in superhero movies ever made. But there are certain movies like Iron Man 2, Thor 2, Avengers 2. For some reason, people just hate the first sequel to a lot of the early Marvel movies. And I don't think they're that bad.
Well,
I want to see more of that outcry towards the problems.
So then what do you say that the problems are?
What are the problem children? People might not be wrong. There's some problems with some sequels. Ant-Man 2 has its problems. Now, maybe people are onto something. Doctor Strange 2 is not the best either.
Yeah, but I feel like what we're seeing in a lot of the movies that we're getting now isn't that we think they're bad. I didn't go into Ant-Man thinking it was bad. I didn't go into leave Doctor Strange thinking it was bad.
You're right.
It's just, it's not the quality that I'm looking for. And I'm not saying a lot of these Phase 1 movies or early Phase 2 movies were bad either. But they're not withholding the quality that we now come to expect from Marvel. And I feel like these ones are getting more of a harsher critique because you're already in an established realm. It's like going into Star Wars or Harry Potter. You have a fan base. They are going to be extremely critical of you. So when you think about it kind of like that, like, again, Ant-Man wasn't bad. Doctor Strange wasn't bad. Spider-Man was amazing, I think.
Yeah.
Black Panther
are you
was
talking
pretty
about
good, but it's just
the newest
it feels
Spider-Man?
like we're missing. We're missing. Yes, the newest Spider-Man. No Way Home.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there are some really, even in Doctor Strange 2, which I don't think was a perfect movie, there are moments in that I thought were phenomenal. Most of them being Scarlet Witch. Elizabeth Olsen was just a powerhouse in that movie. She stole every scene she was in. And you're right. I think the quality that we've come to expect from Marvel has just not been there. And I think a lot of people I see
the formula getting tired.
I don't know if it's the formula. Honestly, like, yes, some of the formula stuff, it is a little formulaic. You can predict what's going to happen, and we should be breaking that. We talked about that, last week with DC. And I see a lot of people saying that it's superhero fatigue, and I disagree. I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I think it's fatigue of bad movies. And not maybe necessarily bad, but like, we're expecting more. We want more. So we're sick of having to go to the movies and just sit there and watch something that's mediocre at best and accept it like, oh, yep, this was the next big thing, and now I have to wait a couple months before the next big one. Like, I was so disappointed with Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, that would definitely, I think, goes down on the list. Quality being possibly bad. Not even
now you want to talk about the problem movies. Thor: Love and Thunder. That's a bad movie.
I think the Thor franchise has about one good movie.
I think even with the shows, it's not that all of the shows are bad, and there are great moments even in some of those shows, but sometimes some of the decisions they're making are weird and don't work.
Like they started off decently strong with the shows. WandaVision, I thought, was amazing.
One of my favorites.
I thought was good. Kind of kickstarted us into this phase, and it got people kind of really excited, especially Loki being a fan favorite to most people. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I thought was pretty good. It hit on some. I don't think it was the best when it came to quality, but it hit on some tough issues that you really wouldn't always see coming from Marvel.
Cinematically, it was good looking as well.
Yes,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier was beautiful. Sometimes I felt like it bit off a little more than it could chew. I think if it had maybe one or two more episodes to really hit some of those points just a little bit further.
Well, and I think that's a problem that they're running into a lot too, is that their shows are like 6 episodes. How much can you tell in 6 episodes? I mean, TV shows are running a minimum of 8. 10 is usually known as your half season. There's shows that are running 22 a season. I don't think they need to go that far. I mean, you don't have to be supernatural or anything, but you can do more.
I guess Kevin Feige had said recently that they're looking at restructuring right now. They're looking at restructuring the MCU in the sense of not pushing out as many projects a year, slowing down a little bit, quality over quantity, which I think is key. We're free to speculate on how much of that is due to Bob Iger stepping back in as CEO of Disney. But he had also said that they want to look at the shows and make them more episodic in the way that TV is. And in my opinion, that's what you should have done from the beginning. TV is TV, movies are movies. You shouldn't be trying to take a 13-hour movie and just cutting it and saying, yep, ship those as episodes. No.
And they did that really for WandaVision. And that's what made it work, as well as that it was different. WandaVision worked because it was something we haven't seen. Actually,
and it was episodic.
A million things we've already seen, but jumbled together in a different type of format. And that's what made it special.
And the sitcom aspect, the different decades, the genre, everything about it made WandaVision so unique and like so special in my eyes. I absolutely loved it.
But then it falls short again at the part that we're discussing at the ending. They try to bring it all together to this one point that everything was just this continuous run to this moment, and it didn't pay off.
I think you also have to look at the time when WandaVision was filmed, it was during the pandemic. There were other things that were supposed to be in it. What's funny is that post-credit scene for WandaVision, when she's in the cabin using the Darkhold, was actually pulled from footage of her in Doctor Strange 2. Because they actually they couldn't film. It was, COVID was so big at the time, they couldn't go back and finish filming some of this stuff. Monica was supposed to have a big fight scene in that finale, and it just didn't pan out. So I think even though I shouldn't, I give WandaVision a little bit of leeway just because of the production issues they faced at the time.
Yeah, well, I still say that it's an amazing show. I mean, granted, the payoff wasn't there, but I can't say it was trash because it had 5 amazing episodes and 1 bad one. Then, okay, it's like 80%. You did that's still passing to me. But then to me, I think the real problem is with the shows, which I think we're going to kind of run into a problem with later, is the one that I was most hyped up about, and we've talked a little bit previously, was Moon Knight.
Yeah.
They advertised Moon Knight pretty heavy. He looked amazing. The trailers looked like they were going to give us what Moon Knight deserves as a character. And so everybody's hopes were up because it showed it like how we were supposed to get it. And then we didn't. The personalities didn't match at all what they were supposed to be. They ended up agreeing with each other, and they're trying to throw in the last personality, which is bad, but it's really not in the comic books.
Yeah,
it's just a really weird thing that did with Moon Knight. A lot of his fight scenes, he blacks out, and you don't see them. And that's kind of part of who he is the battered and broken fighter that he is, and gory. I mean, you should have taken scenes out of the Batman where Robert Pattinson is just he's getting mutilated, but he's getting up. He's getting beat up, but he's getting up and he's still going. And
they could have looked at their own
about.
Production. They could have totally just looked at their own production and said, what did we do with Punisher? How did it work? What did we do with Daredevil?
But that's what makes me scared, because I love those Netflix shows, but we're in totally different territory now with them. Different people are running these projects, these characters, and they're trying to make them fit into their own system that they have. But I don't think it's the way to go. People already love these shows. Granted, some of them have some ups and downs between seasons and whatnot. But I mean, Daredevil is known as possibly the best comic book show we've ever gotten. It's extremely consistent. It was amazing. The fight choreography was off the charts, which Marvel needs to take a note from with fight choreography. I feel like CGI and superpowers can kind of get in the way of getting into a good fight scene. But when you have somebody that is so hand-to-hand, like Daredevil or Moon Knight or Punisher or any of these guys that they focused on in the Netflix series, or that they're trying to focus on now to bring in more people, they're still treating the fight choreography the same, but it's got to be more intricate. You have to base it upon that character. That's why I say Moon Knight should have been beat up a lot more. He should have looked like Robert Pattinson in Batman, where you're just getting knocked down but getting up, knocked down, getting up. Like, you might be just he's a sloppy fighter, and he gets gory, and his moves are dirty and underhanded, but that's how he wins. And that they didn't embrace that. I'm afraid we're going to get Daredevil and not get a great hallway scene.
So let's take a second and look at Daredevil, because there's a lot of stuff online that's been coming out. So apparently, Karen and Foggy will not be returning in the Daredevil Born Again series. That is a huge disappointment in my eyes, because Karen and Foggy were like, they're his heart and soul. Like they are the two people that ground him as Matt Murdock.
Well, that makes it not a Daredevil show. I mean,
right.
When he's Daredevil, then you have the masked vigilante. When he's Matt Murdock, you're looking at a blind man trying to fight the system as a lawyer while still hiding it from his best friends, who then later find out and have to cover for him all the time. And they're worried about him, and they're constantly want him to stop and just keep being a lawyer and just run things correctly, but he doesn't, because he knows it doesn't work. And
I
there's
think
just so much to it that they're involved with that make it so much more emotional, so much more grounded. Just
I think
real.
There's a lot of really cool aspects to Daredevil, especially that connect him to other heroes, that is worth exploring and could be cool. I loved seeing him in She-Hulk, and that interaction with She-Hulk is a lot. She's funny, you know what I mean? She's a great character, and like his interaction with her on a level in which they can understand each other, because they're both lawyers, as well as both being crime fighters. But Daredevil is a very complex character. We've seen it in the show already. It's not just the fact that he's hiding who he is from everybody, aside on top of the fact that like he really has to hide it because he's blind and he can't be seen like doing the things he does. But we know he struggles with faith. Daredevil is a deeply religious character. It's a big part of who he is. And it's a great part of that story, of his struggle with everything, because then he has this struggle with his faith, his parents, his mom, losing his dad. And then all of those other side characters, like Elektra being a fantastic character, Kingpin being a great villain, his interactions with Punisher. We know from the comics, Spider-Man, like Daredevil, he gets around. He's gotten around it. Like,
and not just with She-Hulk.
Anybody who's read the comics knows that at one point Matt and Natasha had a relationship, because a lot of people who only watch the movies are like, oh, well, what, Daredevil would never hang out with the Avengers. It's like, yeah, no, he would. No,
he does.
He does.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the cool thing about when you think about the comics is that, one comparison between DC and Marvel is the Justice League is huge, but it's always the same, unless there's a crisis event where they change a member, like they did with Manhunter and Cyborg, but we already got into that in the previous episode. The Justice League's the same, the Big Seven's the same, and they have all the other characters that can come in as needed, because the Justice League is literally 90% of the heroes on Earth. The Avengers is different. It's a select few. But that select few isn't always the same. There's many different Avengers team. I mean, you think of Wolverine, he's an X-Men. He's been on a lot of Avengers.
On the Avengers, yeah.
Spider-Man, you don't think of him as an Avenger. He's been on the Avengers. Ghost Rider, he's been on the Avengers.
He's been part of the Fantastic Four.
They mix and match their teams a lot because they have so many different ones, and they make it a select few instead of saying, here's everybody. They're a team. Like this, they've all conjoined. Which isn't the case. So you can't just always think of the Avengers as the people you saw in Phase 1. Which is what I think they're going for now, as they phased out Tony and Steve and Natasha, and we'll see kind of where Hawkeye lies. I don't know if he'll still be on the team, because it seems like he has his own thing going on. God knows what the hell's happening with Bruce. And then also with Thor, just we don't know anything about the originals, whether they're still in the universe or not. It can still change.
I think one of the original characters that excites me the most, and we've talked about this, and it's due to the ending of his movie with Spider-Man. I'm really excited to see where he goes next, because his place in the universe has changed vastly due to that ending.
I love that ending.
And I loved it too.
I think it was emotional, and I think what bothered me most about Tom Holland's Spider-Man was that it didn't feel like Spider-Man. And it might be fucked up to say, but Spider-Man is probably the most tragic character in the Marvel universe. I mean, his whole life is a
Unfortunately.
tragedy. Anytime he finds somebody he loves, they die.
Yeah.
His origin stems from his father figure dying. Nobody really mentors him because he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And yet they kind of made him. They don't bring in Uncle Ben, which is fine. We heard the storyline. I think it could have deserved a mention. They replaced it with Aunt May though, and that's, while it's not comic book accurate, it still brings him to that point of that he should be distraught. He should have turned evil. He should have been killing people a long time ago, with the motivations he has to keep going. When your motivation is somebody that died, you turn into the Punisher,
Yeah.
not Spider-Man. So when you
Well,
think
and you
about
know
it in
what
that
though?
aspect,
There's that.
I think they're retconning it to where now he has nobody. He lost his girlfriend. He lost his best friend. He lost his aunt. She gave him the responsibility
This.
speech.
Yep.
He lost Tony, which I don't think he should have been involved in the first place. But Marvel, everything revolves around Tony.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we're getting Peter. We're getting the Peter Parker, and we're not getting white Miles Morales.
Yes, and that's the other thing. They've given Peter so many in the MCU, so many of Miles's qualities. Even down to Ned.
Yeah.
Even the auxiliary characters around the MCU's Spider-Man are just Miles' side characters. I will. You hit on something like really key there, though. Spider-Man, Peter, one of the greatest parts of his story. Typical Peter Parker bad luck, like typical Parker luck. That, regardless, has never stopped him from being the good guy, from taking a bullet for Captain America, and Cap having to tell him like you're the best of us. Peter, no matter what happens, when the chips are down, he's going to do what's right, and we've seen it in the comics. Peter will literally risk his own life to the point of death, and he has, to save everyone else that he loves. And I think you get to see that in No Way Home. You also really get to see, like, especially in that final fight scene with the Green Goblin, how much Peter holds back in a normal fight. A lot of people don't realize how strong he is.
It's also not that easy. There's times where he does struggle. He's not a perfect character. He doesn't not waver. He's not Superman,
Right.
where the compass never wavers. He has that wavering compass. I mean, it's something that's brought up a lot. Was that
but he's not
Kingpin tried to
Batman.
put a hit on Aunt May. Oh, you do not fuck with Aunt May.
No.
Because Kingpin, being a guy that can take like a hit from the Hulk, deceivingly enough, he looks like a fat guy. See him take his shirt off in any comic book, he's jacked. He's bigger than the Rhino. It makes no sense. He's just a regular dude.
He's huge.
He went over there, and they have been in many fights. Go through the comic history, they are at each other's necks constantly. Even fights. He went over there and picked him up by his skin, had him dangling, battered, and he told him, "Next time I'll kill you." So, like, again, it's the compass does waver, but he always stays on that path when it seems like he really shouldn't. Like,
and it's super funny too.
Like kill him, do it, but he won't because he is too good. Because again, this is the guy that lost everything. He lost his uncle. He's lost his parents. He's lost every girlfriend he's ever had. He's lost his unborn child. That was a weird storyline, but it happened. At some point, he lost Aunt May in a storyline. She's not gone anymore, but he loses everything he loses his best friend. His best friend turns evil and tries to kill him.
It's very much like it's that quote from Rocky. It's not about how hard you can
how hard
hit. It's about how hard you can get hit
and keep going
and get up and keep going. And like, it's funny because it's similar to like you said, he might waver, but he's not Batman where he completely falls off the track and and he's not Punisher. You get similar storylines in other comics where like Batman is just one bad day away from being Joker. you get that great scene in Daredevil season 2 where Punisher tells Daredevil the same thing. You're just one bad day away from being me. The difference is you hit them, they get back up. I hit them, they stay down. Like that is a big part of Peter, but you never have to worry about him going off the rail and like completely going bad. Even with the black suit, even with Venom, he finds his way back to center.
And which is why, again, I like how they ended it. Terrible for Peter, but everything's always terrible for Peter. That's how it's supposed to be. Again, they were trying to make him Miles. However, I mean, we're gonna see Miles again now. With another Spider-Verse movie coming out.
Which I'm excited for.
Which, I mean, there's such an opportunity there that we're seeing DC do right now. DC starting from the ground, and they have no multiverse. Because again, they're blank currently. But they're fusing their animation with their live action. And we're not seeing it with Marvel where they're trying to do so. Even though they're in the multiverse, this is their multiverse. But we haven't seen that jump beyond What If. And
at all.
What If only showed us a preview of Doctor Strange that was different that we got in the Doctor Strange movie. That's what happened.
Yeah. There's like even like we got a version of Ultron that took the Infinity Stones and like could have been a cool thing to see in a like, you know what I mean? But it was self-contained and it'll probably never see it happen. I'm hearing that Ultron will be returning in Armor Wars, which I think is great. Armor Wars, as you know, we've talked about before, is now going to be a movie taking place after, I think, the Vision Quest show that's coming out, also after Ironheart. It's really going to bring all of these characters that were pretty much tied to Tony together again, which should be really cool. But at the same time, even as cool as everything that's on the slate is right now, my expectations have been lowered. I'm not as hype. Like, even I thought Ant-Man 3 was going to really be, the next big thing, the next best thing, because I was let down last year by Marvel for the most part, except for Black Panther 2. I thought Black Panther 2 was great. I thought the performances were amazing and it was emotional. Aside from Kang, Jonathan Majors crushed it as Kang, and I can't wait to see him again. I'm not excited. I'm hoping Guardians 3. I think with Guardians 3, if it's really good as James Gunn tends to be, it'll prove that it's not superhero movies that people are tired of. People are just tired of mediocre movies.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Quantumania was good. It was a good movie. I think if you didn't have Jonathan Majors in that movie, it would have been really bad. He stole a show. He proves what he's going to be. You saw more of him than you did in Loki and such.
Yep.
So going into it, I mean, he's gonna be a big bad. I mean, he's going to be giving a performance. He's going to be listed up there with like Doc Ock and the Joker as the best on-screen villains that we're going to be getting. Which is it's weird because anybody that doesn't read comics that loves Marvel through the movies never heard of them. And I think it's going to be even more interesting to see how they handle it all. Because the Kang storyline isn't easy. It's not an easy storyline at all. It's very convoluted. There's a lot of twists and turns and confusion, even in the comics.
Because of all the time. Because it's not just time travel. And it's the fact that it's the multiverse. So it's not just, there's multiple versions in one timeline, in one universe. And then you get into the next universe, like 616 and then 1610. Like there's just, each version of Kang is different, even across time. in each universe. That it gets super convoluted. That post-credit scene for Ant-Man 3, which shows just how crazy it's going to get.
Yeah, it's going to be insane, and there's going to be a lot of explaining because you're going to see Kang a lot. I mean, knowing Marvel, they'll probably put him in damn near every project now.
I'm hearing
Somewhere,
he's showing up
somehow.
a lot.
Yeah, he's going to be damn near every project. And then you always have to explain, well, which one is that? Well, who's this? Because there's already that confusion there between the one in Loki and the one in Quantumania, and then how are we going to get all of these guys that we saw in the post-credit scene of Quantumania? So there really is a lot there that they have to cover. And then the weirdest part of them all is a character that's still yet to be introduced. Iron Lad has come in, which is a really weird part of Kang.
Even with Iron Lad, I could see Iron Lad being introduced post-Kang Dynasty and being a part of the Young Avengers after the fact. You know what I mean? Like, I could see them having like we still have another version of Kang coming. You know what I mean? Like,
which
if they
could
don't
then cause Jonathan Majors Kang to come back in a later storyline,
right? If they don't do the typical kill him off.
Yeah, for those, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can't kill Kang.
I mean, they killed Ultron.
You can't kill Kang. Well, then Ultron's come back.
Yeah, now.
You can't kill... Yeah, I mean, like, Thanos, you can kill. It's not easy to kill, but you can kill him. You physically can't kill Kang. There's an infinite amount of him. And he's caused so many paradoxes within the timeline, even if you kill him, he just resets. It's like, it's this whole weird thing. And that's where Iron Lad comes in as well, to where he's like his own paradox, because he's he's in the future, but less in the future than the Kang we all know and hate is from. And he's just the younger version, but he travels because he doesn't want to turn out to be Kang.
Because his knowledge of it changes. Yeah,
it gets really convoluted. Joins the Young Avengers. He does this thing in the timeline. He has to either die or go back. It gets crazy. So with bringing him in and bringing in, which we're already seeing the start of that Young Avengers team, I mean, it makes me think how they're going to go about it and like do it in a smart way.
Yeah, I think we're reaching a point. What I'm gonna just call the peak of Marvel, where almost every major character is just existing within the MCU. They might not all be alive and on screen at the same time, but we will have seen them, like Tony and Natasha being gone. But like Silver Surfer is coming because we know like that's going to happen. Fantastic Four is coming. It's only a matter of time before we see Ghost Rider and Nova, which I'm hoping is sometime soon. We have Daredevil coming back with, I've just heard recently, Jessica Jones and Punisher coming back with Kristen Ritter and John Bernthal reprising those roles for that show. We're reaching the peak. Kazar is supposed to be in Captain America 4, which, definitely a character not a lot of people are going to recognize. But if he's there, really who's left?
Yeah, I mean, they're two teams away from having everybody, honestly. I mean, those teams and the rights that come with them is really what kind of completes the universe there.
Before we really hit on that one big team that is coming at some unspecified time because there's no movie in production, we know the Fantastic Four are coming in. The Fantastic Four definitely have to come in before Kang because of the one connection between them. Nathaniel Richards, Kang, is a descendant of Mr. Fantastic. There is a relation there. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see leading up to the finale. I don't think we're going to see X-Men completely rebooted until after Secret Wars.
Yeah, I don't believe so either. And I know you know a little more about this than I do. The whole rights situation with X-Men, if you'd like to go into that.
To my knowledge, when Marvel bought Fox, they inherited the contracts from Fox. If they were to do another X-Men movie, they have to keep to the actors that were contracted to these characters until, I believe, 2025, which means at the earliest, it looks like we might not be getting a new X-Men team until 2026. That makes sense and lines up with this whole Secret Wars thing. I am hearing that Professor X and Magneto will be reappearing, played by Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, one last time, before finally getting a new version of these characters. I think Secret Wars is going to play out very different from what everybody else thinks. I think a lot of people are basing it off of the, was it 2015 run?
I believe so.
Where Doctor Doom was the big bad. I don't think that's the case. I actually think the Beyonder is going to be the villain. Because it got me thinking after Ant-Man 3. Kang is this villain. He's fucking up the timeline across the multiverse. The Beyonder is one thing that Kang cannot account for, because the Beyonder exists outside of the multiverse. The Beyonder sees what's happening, starts grabbing people, he creates Battle World. I think after Kang completely and utterly just shatters the multiverse in Kang Dynasty, I think the Beyonder is going to pick up these pieces, put together Battle World, and try to play a little game with the heroes and villains that he was able to grab after this cataclysm. And I don't think Doom is going to be the villain. We might see Doom in this movie as a savior type, which will then propel Doom as our next big bad after the multiverse. But I don't think he's going to be the villain of Secret Wars. And I don't think it's going to be based off of that Jonathan Hickman's run. I think it's going to be based off the original run where just the Beyonder comes in and decides to just play chess.
Yeah, and I think that can be interesting. And I like the idea of bringing in Doctor Doom as your savior figure. The one thing about Doctor Doom is that he doesn't always seem like the bad guy. I mean,
yeah,
he kind of keeps that same appearance as like Lex Luthor. He's famous. Yeah. He's intelligent. He is a politician. I mean, eventually he ends up going and running his own nation, which gives him his own political immunity, so he's kind of free to act however the fuck he wants. But at the core of it, you know, he wasn't looked upon the public as the bad guy, and you're not always originally going to look at him as the bad guy. Everybody else knows. The heroes know. Whereas this guy is fucked up, but even at the beginning, I mean, his origins with the Fantastic Four, they didn't know, and then they did.
Yeah, what's funny is if you go back and if you watched old interviews with Stan Lee, he talks about Doom being one of his favorite villains, and he'll say Doom's not breaking any laws. He wants to rule the world. He wants to rule the world. That's not against the law. That's not anything bad. He's now the way he would rule it and stuff. It's debatable how good it is, but even in the eyes of Doom, he looks at it as, well, under my rule, everyone is free. Everyone is safe. There's no war. There's no famine. There's no pestilence, under his rule and his rule only. But it's a dictatorship, and, the heroes can't stand for that.
Yeah. And I think, with Secret Wars getting the Fantastic Four, getting Doom, soon after getting the X-Men, then we have two really big villains coming in that have passed with each other, being Doctor Doom and Magneto being around. It opens up the floodgates a lot. I think Secret Wars also can have it could have a big ability of bringing in these characters that we didn't always expect to see together. So even our street level Netflix guys, even, our Fantastic Four guys, we have our Avengers and all the people we've already seen. And I think it can also give us kind of a chance to revisit and reboot characters sort of in a way, same way that Kang has right now. I know one of the biggest complaints to Marvel right now is the Hulk. What's going on with the Hulk? We
Yeah.
got uh, Professor Hulk right now, which was,
Yeah.
it was a run. It happened. I can't be mad at them for doing it.
Yep.
It's a real storyline. Um, but that doesn't last forever. That storyline didn't last forever. He is the big green monster, and we love to see them make that change to characters and see, the progression. But sometimes it isn't always progression. A lot of characters regress.
Yeah.
When you talk about storytelling and stuff, I think I've mentioned this before in previous episodes. But one of my favorite character developments of all time is from a cartoon. It's Avatar. Zuko. He progresses, he regresses, progresses, regresses, and
Yep.
it really shows what human nature is of that. It's not always that easy to then just keep moving forward. And I think it would be really easy to do that regression with the Hulk. Maybe at some point you can progress again, but his whole thing is that it doesn't stay like that. He's another character that he's born in tragedy. He's bothered by his traumas.
I am 100% praying for that man's downfall. Because I just, I want to see Savage Hulk. I want to see Hulk, back to,
Well, with,
it is
with
funny.
Secret Wars coming around, I know it might not be the same because the storyline would deviate. But with Secret Wars and Hulk, that does give you a chance to then bring us World War Hulk.
Well, there's a lot of other
storyline.
There's a lot of storylines that I'm hearing are in development. I know Hulk is a tricky one because Universal does still own partial rights to the Hulk. I'm hearing Disney's trying to work a deal with Universal, Comcast actually, because Comcast owns Universal, to try and get the rights to Namor and the Hulk 100% back to Disney. If that happens, they'll be able to put a Hulk movie into full production, and we'll get a World War Hulk movie, which it seems like we're building up anyway. We're building towards. Yeah, I think Hulk is an interesting character, and he, like you said, it wasn't bad that they did the Professor Hulk storyline. I thought it was funny, even in Endgame when they go back in time, and he's like, "It's just like." I think it's a bit barbaric, and he just goes around. He's like, ugh, and he's like throwing the card just like to show off, but he's totally not that guy anymore. But it would be interesting to see him kind of regress a little bit. And now that we're getting more of the Hulk family. It would be interesting to see how they're able to bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, there's already signs we've already gotten She-Hulk. Signs that we're getting Red Hulk. We've already gotten Abomination, kind of not part of the family, but we're getting Hulkling. It's more of a, but
I can't wait to see Hulkling and Wiccan, two of my favorite Young Avengers. I'm hearing different rumors of when they'll pop up, but I'm not 100% sold on any of that right now.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how they bring together the Young Avengers. I want to see how they're really going to do it. Is it going to be we stumbled across each other? Is it going to be we're recruited? Is it like how are they going to go about the Young Avengers?
Yeah. It's 100% going to be interesting. I think probably, them coming together, being the younger people, having a team up against Kang or in Secret Wars, and like, hey, we're the next generation. We need to work together. We need to do what they did. And like you get that cool reference to like we need to do what they did back in the Battle of New York.
It brings you to a point where Kang in Quantumania says, "Oh, which one are you? I've killed you. Like I'm pretty sure I've killed you. Were you the one?
Have I killed you before?"
Yeah,
but can we just like take a minute to like just that scene? Like again, like major props to Jonathan Majors because he's terrifying.
Very, very powerful scene. Like portrays the villain perfectly. He's like, I don't even care to know who you are. Like I don't remember you. Sorry,
are you the one with the hammer?
Times, but I just can't seem to remember because you're just insignificant.
Yeah,
which is just a terrifying thing to say to a hero. You know, like
yeah,
especially
yeah.
it plays well to Ant-Man and the themes that they're doing in the movie. That were his head's so big. Oh, I did this and I did this and I don't need to
Well,
save lives.
and I
Everybody
will say,
remembers me. And then the villain doesn't care who he is. He's like, I don't
I
remember
will say
you.
this: a lot of people too were like mad at the ending and the way he got beat, right, by the ants.
Kind of
Um,
whack.
but hear me out, because everybody was like, and it's a great scene, you know. I'm the conqueror of worlds. You talk to ants, and then that's what beats him. But let's not forget one of the greatest characters in Marvel Comics, Squirrel Girl, who has totally decimated the likes of Kang, Doom, Thanos, and I'm pretty sure Galactus. And she talks to squirrels.
Yes, but that's different. She's the unbeatable squirrel girl. That's
She is the
literally her
unbeatable.
tagline.
She is the unbeatable squirrel girl. She is
Uh,
the Bugs Bunny of um
but yeah, I didn't love that ending, and like I said, I think Jonathan Majors really saves that performance. I wanted that movie to go in a lot of different ways than it did. I mean, honestly, I wanted Scott to die. I love Paul Rudd. I think he's been doing a great thing with Ant-Man. I think for future stories, I think it would have been, or even if they just left him in the quantum realm, I get it. You keep shipping him off to the quantum realm. It's just what he does now.
I wanted Thor to die.
Well,
I wanted, well, because of Jane. Like, I wanted Jane to have her moment for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted the same way we had in the comics. I thought like she was going to be, and maybe it wasn't even that like Thor died, but like he got just completely depowered, and it was like he's off on the sidelines, like he's done. And Jane had the mantle. You know, I will time and time again, I will say it. Thor: Love and Thunder was one of the biggest disappointments. I think like it is. I was really disappointed with Moon Knight. Doesn't even come near how disappointed I was when I saw Love and Thunder.
yeah, it didn't hit the mark.
What a total waste of Christian Bale. How do you?
They didn't handle gore right. They definitely didn't handle gore right.
They 100%
in the
didn't.
looks department, which I didn't think they were going to, in general, because of what we saw about him beforehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes they just, I think, kind of need to let the characters go to bring in different developments. My running theory, which I thought was almost going to happen, was that Scott was going to die. And I think it kind of brings in an interesting point later. Is that now? I mean, she has Hank, but now Cassie's on her own. His daughter has now got her own suit. She's on her own. She's eventually going to be going into the Young Avengers. And for those that don't know, she ends up dating Iron Lad.
Yeah.
The younger version of Kang, the man that would have killed her father. Which I think just kind of brings in a great line that they can just, kind of bring in. That storyline could be very powerful, being
And
young and in love, and then realizing that your love would eventually futurely kill your dad in the past. You can't write that. Like, it just...
There's even... They could have still continued that story and had it... I think a lot of people are going to die between now and Secret Wars. Secret Wars is going to kind of reset us a bit. And you could have brought Scott back after that.
And even if he would have beat Kang, but he couldn't make it through the portal, perfect. That's good enough for me. We can still get Paul Rudd back, but we can still get this different storyline where everybody thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's all you needed.
Yep. And then now, if you do the storyline, her dating Iron Lad, and then her dad is back, and now there's this idea of, well, are you going to kill my dad again? There's so much potential there. And maybe some of this stuff is just too grown up for what Marvel is willing to put out. Which, I get it.
Seems
family-friendly movies, but
I think it's time to deviate. And that's, we already talked about it. Our fears of what they're going to do with the old Netflix characters, because we already see they're handling, Daredevil in a kiddish way, which is fine because he's in kiddish movies with less serious characters. And, he hangs out with a lot of people. Of course, he can act differently. But then are they going to carry that same mentality into his own show? Because they should. Moon Knight was not handled right. If you couldn't handle Moon Knight, I don't know what you're going to do about Punisher, because he's literally, all he does is shoot people. So you can't even hide that violence. So again, it'll definitely be interesting, nonetheless, to see if they will move forward. I mean, we've already got the confirmation. We're going to get Deadpool. Deadpool will be rated R, but it's already been proven that Deadpool's rated R. People are going to watch this rated R movie. Yes, the first one came out. A couple people were disappointed. It's a superhero movie. My kid watched it. Well, you should have checked the rating. That's your fault.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it did
responsibility.
extremely well. It got great reviews. It's still being streamed well now. Watch Deadpool. It's great. But they already have it proven. And they're keeping the same character, and it's proven that rated R, and and he's such a character on the side that you could watch him and not watch anything else, or watch everything else and not watch him, and it wouldn't matter because he's dead. He lives outside of reality. So it doesn't really matter for him. But they have to start taking that approach with other characters and, kind of run with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that, Feige has said we're going to keep Deadpool rated R. But there's a way to get a rated R, to get an R rating, but still be as PG-13 as possible. The same way that you can, remain PG-13 and push as close to that R rating as you absolutely can. Think about the intro to Deadpool too.
I don't know if I'm mistaken.
Wolverine.
Oh yeah. I might be mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure Logan is just PG-13. I mean, I could go back and check my Blu-ray right now.
Nope.
Is it
Logan's
R?
rated R? Yeah.
It is R. Okay. But then that's a totally different type of R than Deadpool. It's completely different. In the fact
I think Logan was rated R because of the gore, because of the blood and the graphic nature of it.
That's why they should have made Moon Knight rated R. To show the gore.
TVMA.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, but Deadpool's going to be first because they're going to use the same actor, but X-Men has to wait, as you previously explained, because they don't want to use any of the same actors, because why would you? We're over them.
Which I think is best. I think is
100% is best. I think you should bring in the Fox universe. I think you start your own universe with the X-Men. Abandon ship with all of the characters. Even the great ones. There's some of them we love to see. I love Professor X and Magneto, young and old. Love Wolverine. Storm. I think it's great. I think both versions of Beast. Great. Move on though. We don't need it. We've seen them.
Yeah.
They're, for the older versions of them, their movies came out damn near 20 years ago. So they're old now too as well. And I think even recycling some of those characters might not even be the first thing you want to do. I think without a doubt, at some point they're going to bring Wolverine back. Maybe sooner than we'd hope.
100%.
Maybe sooner than we'd hope that they would, because Wolverine can also be his own one-off character. I mean, it's been shown. That's why he is the main character, and he's had so many solo movies. But even through the comics, he runs his own teams. He goes to other teams. He has solo runs. He's one of the only people in the X-Men that get consistent solo runs. Do them later. Do them by himself. Doesn't matter. But wait, I would say. I agree. And even, some of the members of the team, we can take the James Gunn approach here. We don't have to do Cyclops, Beast, Jean Grey, Iceman. We don't have to do these core members that everybody already knows. The X-Men is, while being secluded to just mutants, is as big as the fucking Justice League in DC, which is every hero on their planet. There's so much to choose from. They have a lot of great characters because the X-Men are all about struggle. All these people have struggled before they got there. struggle with their
There
mutation, and
are,
they have great storylines, and you can use all of them.
of the original X-Men, of the 5 original members of the X-Men, the 2 that I would definitely keep, because I think there's potential there, especially just, well, Iceman, I think, has changed
Iceman, I
in the
think,
comics,
stays.
and I think you need to keep him because he has I feel like now in the comics he's got a better storyline going on. He's developed more as a character. Angel, I don't think has ever gotten a good shot in live action. We know Angel from the cartoon series. I mean, Archangel, you get all these great storylines with him. Jean Grey, just
Yep, push it to the side.
Yeah, no, it's not necessary.
Might as well not have Scott. Don't do either
Right.
one. If you're gonna do one, do both. If you're not gonna do one, don't do the other.
And I think Beast doesn't need to be a main member. Beast can be at the school. He can be a teacher. He can be a part of, the supporting cast for them. I don't think he needs to be on the team, but you can definitely have Beast there. But like you said, there's a lot of other great characters. I mean, Storm is fantastic. Storm can lead the team. We've seen her do it.
Well, the thing is, I want Storm in a different way. Storm is an amazing character. She has a great background. She was praised as a god. Back
basically
in Africa.
is. She is.
She ends up being married to the King of Wakanda. Rest in peace. Chadwick is no longer there. But then don't bring her through the X-Men. You have a perfect opportunity to bring in the X-Men and then bring her in through Wakanda and through a Black Panther movie. And then you can jump her over. I mean, then the X-Men find her, they find out she's a mutant, whatever, and she joins this, and you see the struggles between being a goddess princess in one land to being adjusted to this team atmosphere in the other. I think it can work out great. And even one thing I wouldn't be opposed to, like without Chadwick, I would still not be mad about her having a relationship with a Black Panther. Having her in a relationship with Shuri, since we're not going to get T'Challa. He's gone. There's no coming back from it. But if we still want to save that relationship between like this African goddess and the nation of Wakanda and the king of Wakanda or queen of Wakanda, you can still do it.
To protect her,
And you can have the opportunity to merge the X-Men with Black Panther. I think it works out so well, no matter who it is, as long as it's a Black Panther.
I think that's actually a really good idea, and I think that could work really well. And I think the X-Men, like you said, they exist all over the world, and they're tied to so many other teams and so many other characters because they're not just X-Men. They're all mutants. Look at Kitty Pryde. For a short time, was married to Star-Lord, and she was running around space with the Guardians. There's so many ways to connect these characters. My hope, and this is my big thing. X-Men is one of my favorite comic book teams. They have one of the best runs, some of the best runs in comics. Some of the best animated shows. The X-Men can be a cinematic masterpiece in the way that we both think the Batman is, even though it didn't get nominated at the Oscars, which was a total fucking robbery.
Yeah.
You can make a cinematic masterpiece
at the Oscars.
Yeah, exactly. It can be a cinematic masterpiece with a movie that is compelling, a story that is compelling, a story with deep meaning that hits hard, makes the audience think, makes them wonder, makes you laugh, makes you cry. The same way that, Black Panther's storylines in those movies hits hard. Because Ryan Coogler is just fucking amazing. The same way that I felt that, like, Eternals look-wise, Eternals looked beautiful. It was a beautifully shot movie. X-Men can be both. It can be this beautifully shot movie with a compelling story, but that also is extravagant and still a superhero movie in the way that the Avengers are. I mean, Jubilee, look at her powers. You know, like you can have this spectacle at the same time while kind of keeping the formula that Marvel has, but at the same time making something bigger and different from it. That's my hope for X-Men. I'm very scared with what Marvel has done recently. That I don't know. I don't have the highest of hopes that we'll actually reach that and achieve that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, there's so many, they're not hitting that mark. That's not their market. I understand why you're not doing it. What you're doing isn't broke. You have probably, I think, 50% of the highest grossing movies of all time. 50% of the top 10 is you. Why change what you're doing? The blockbuster is what's in right now. Roll with it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. But I want them to handle the X-Men well, and I want them to handle it differently. I don't think we have to throw an X-Men movie at you. I think because of the diversity of these characters, there's a lot we can do. I mean, I just mentioned what you can do for Storm. You can bring in these characters and other storylines, and then formulate this team, or then bring in the team and bring those characters that we introduced separately to that team, like they're being picked up, or they're being recruited, or trying to be saved. So you can do that with Storm. I think a great one is Gambit. Him being in the Thieves Guild. And all the trouble that he causes can have interactions with a lot of different heroes, because he is kind of on that anti-hero kind of side of things. I mean, you can bring him in against a lot of street level people. He has some opportunities there. Iceman, being so young and out in the world, and having, I mean, obviously it doesn't come until later, but you could change the timeline and have him kind of in there with Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four, because he has relationships with Johnny and
I'm glad you went there, because that's where I was going. Peter's in a different place now, like we talked about at the beginning of this episode. You want to introduce these characters in other ways. Spider-Man and his amazing friends. You can borrow from the Ultimate Spider-Man run. Peter now has nobody. If he's making new friends and Fantastic Four are already coming in, you can make Bobby and Johnny the same age as Peter, like they are in the comics. Those can be his new roommates. You can introduce these characters through Spider-Man. And now you're building a relationship where now Peter isn't tied to the Avengers anymore. And yeah, you're still tying him to other teams, but that's the nature of Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Peter,
he
same way as Daredevil,
he's on his own.
He gets around. Yeah. And
which again, but that's a lot of opportunity with Spider-Man. And Daredevil. They're people that go across a lot of teams. But those are just three characters to name, ones that I would really love to see in the MCU that you can introduce in a different way through different established characters, which we know Marvel loves to do. So you can do what you love to do without just throwing a movie trying to give us a 100 years worth of information in it.
I also think, I heard this a long time ago, that with King Dynasty and the Secret Wars, we're going to kind of be resetting. And I think they plan on just retconning the MCU timeline, where mutants have existed the entire time. So it's just one big retcon. It happens in the comics all the time, so it's not that big of a deal. It actually makes the movies finally feel a little more comic booky. If I was doing X-Men, I wouldn't make the Brotherhood the villains. I wouldn't make, I wouldn't take Apocalypse. I wouldn't even take the Sentinels. I would make it humanity. Listen, call it X-Men, Children of the Atom, because Marvel doesn't want to do the number sequels anymore. They love their titles. Children of the Atom. They're the next step in human evolution. It pisses people off. Make the villain humanity, because that is the X-Men's biggest threat. And you also need to show off, put together this team of X-Men that's from around the world, mutants from around the world, and really showcase the diversity, because there's such a diverse people. You have the Hellfire Club, which are all the mutants that are running the world. The top 1% of the 1%. And then you have the Morlocks, that are people with mutant abilities that just can't go out in public because their abilities are physical, and they get hated on and beaten and just treated like the worst people imaginable, even though those same people will then go on and worship, Captain America.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. And
It
I
is.
mean, you have to realize the X-Men were created as a statement piece, which is, they were separate from everybody, but then they're everybody's together. So sometimes it makes no sense why everybody hates mutants, but we just accept that they do, because it's the same way that people in the world hate other people. And why?
Yeah.
We don't know, but that's the beauty of the X-Men as well, and why people hate mutants. It's that whole, we're talking about it type of thing. So it'll be interesting, I think, how they're going to end up handling it again, because these are serious issues. The X-Men are directly related to serious issues. Professor X and Magneto are literally based off of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And even going back to Fox and what they did, the best, movie in that franchise is Logan. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But beyond that, my personal favorite is First Class. I love what they do with First Class, showing the juxtaposition between Professor X and Magneto, giving us something different we haven't seen with a new team. Timeline screwy, I know, but we get something different, and we get that juxtaposition, and we see that the Brotherhood aren't evil. The X-Men aren't evil.
Yeah, no, and
they were together.
Even if you go
and
back,
they had to split because of different views of how to deal with humanity.
And that's just it. If you go back and even look at X-Men 1, the original, you have that scene at the beginning of the movie where, Charles and Magneto are talking, and he's just like, you've had your chance, your plan didn't work. Now it's my turn to try, and that's basically just them. It's the back and forth of, how much do we have to suffer? How much do our people have to suffer? When is enough? Especially because Magneto Professor X understands it as well, but we're stronger. We're better. So why are we not just taking our throne? Why are we, allowing? Because basically that's what it is. We're allowing this to happen.
And it's the same thing that Magneto's not, in theory, evil. He wants equality. That's what he wants. He wants equality. Because he knows they're better, but he'll settle for just equal. But that's not how he's treated. But again, it's the way he goes about it.
One of the great things about Magneto too that makes him such a compelling character is his childhood. He's Jewish, and he grew up in Nazi Germany. He survived being in a camp. So you get a great scene in X-Men 3. It's a bad movie altogether. Yeah. But you get a great scene in X-Men 3 when he's in the church and there's the new Brotherhood, and she's like, "Oh, well, where's your tattoo? Where's your mark?" And he shows his wrist of his numbers. And he goes, "I've been marked once, and I'll never let it happen again."
Which it's a weird thing, since you don't see it a lot in comics where someone is based off of solely so in root and heart based into a certain period of time.
Yeah.
That it makes it weird when time keeps moving, because comic years is almost like dog years. A year here is 7 years there, but for some reason technology still evolves with the years, but the years didn't really change that far in advance. Comic timeline's weird. You just call it dog years. For every 7 years that moves on, then we'll age somebody up. That's just kind of how it works for them. But Professor X and Magneto have been old for forever. And they're rooted. Magneto specifically is rooted in the Holocaust. Well, we're getting to a point in time where the Holocaust was so long ago that
the thing is,
we won't have any survivors of the Holocaust.
They've fixed that they've made it possible to explain that in the new X-Men comics, where they can just be reborn and have all of the same memories and stuff. They're basically cloning them.
That takes a lot, though, and it takes Krakoa and a lot of things that you have to explain with that we're not
which
ready
in
for
the comics it works now, but yeah.
But it's
I agree.
Sometimes you think, what do you do with them? Because I mean, there's the Steve Rogers treatment. I mean, Captain America wasn't always on ice, you know, and if he was, it wasn't for that long. It just keeps getting longer and longer for when he came back to make sense to be like, oh, well, he was in World War II, but you know now he's the same age because he was frozen. You can't steal the same storyline though. So then, what's your excuse for Magneto of why? Because he gets de-aged and then aged actually pretty frequently. Like if you see, he doesn't always look like a decrepit old man. He doesn't always look like he's 22. But
it's definitely
there's never
that's
really
going
an
to have to
explanation
be
until currently.
Yeah, it'll definitely have to be. It's something they're going to have to tackle and talk about. But again, these are things I'm hopeful for. But my expectations, unlike I'm hopeful for DC, but you know, I don't have expectations for DC right now because it's all new, and I know James Gunn is a great director, and I'm sure it's going to be great. Marvel has set expectations. They set them, and they're not meeting them right now. So I am more worried about the future of Marvel than I am the future of DC. And I don't think I'm alone.
No, not at all. I mean, I will say my hopes aren't as high when I go into a theater now to see a Marvel movie. The last one that I will be hopeful for is going to be Guardians 3. And if they let me down on Guardians 3, I'm going to have to do a lot of thinking. I'm going to have to do a lot of thinking.
At the same time, if Guardians 3 lets me down, it won't just have me doing thinking on Marvel's end. I will also be thinking about DC. Because, you know, he's the man now. So
yeah, which I don't think it will. I don't think it will.
I don't think it will.
Is consistent. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, I think on just one last note, since the last thing we were really talking about was the X-Men, and we said how we want difference and we want to see something new, or we don't want the same characters. If you were to bring in these main characters to start your X-Men team, you can have others in the background, or you might just say this is the beginning, this is first class. Who would you personally use on your X-Men team to start out on the MCU?
Well, I don't know if I have a full team lined up that I would like. I don't have like a full lineup, but a couple of characters that I would definitely want. I think Psylocke is an interesting character, and Sunspot would be another cool one.
I was thinking of that one too. I was really thinking of Sunspot. It's a great character.
Yeah, Sunspot's a great character, but Sunspot's also an interesting character because he's got money. Like, he's rich. And I said, I think you need to, I would show off run the gambit of it and show off from the Hellfire Club down to the Morlocks and everything in between. So Marrow would be somebody that I would maybe not have on the team, but if we're going to show off the Morlocks, she has to be there. The same way that, Emma Frost is probably going to be around. Like I said earlier, Iceman, Storm, but if we're introducing them in other projects, maybe they're not on the team yet.
I mean, characters I love. One of my favorite characters is Iceman.
Magic could be a really cool character.
And another one that you can fit in through other parts of the media.
Correct. Yeah.
You can bring her in with Scarlet Witch. You can bring her in with Doctor Strange. Her powers are
Colossus
magic.
is, tied to her. That's her brother.
Which again it brings in interest. And then there's also we didn't even mention it, but there's a lot. Scarlet Witch on her own is they kind of retcon it a little bit, but she's also supposed to be a
Yep.
mutant. We've already gotten Quicksilver.
Well,
He's supposed
even
to be
with
a
that,
mutant.
with Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Polaris, Magneto, even if we wanted to say, all right, let's introduce the Summers, Vulcan is an emperor out in space. You know, their long lost brother. You know, their dad was running around in space. So, like, there's ways of introducing all these characters. The Phoenix Force is a cosmic power that you can link Jean to that stuff. You know, bringing in the Shi'ar Empire. You know, in the Marvels movie or something, or a Guardians movie can work, or the Nova Corps if we get a Nova project at some point. Angel is another character that I love. Like you said with Gambit, Rogue is. I think Rogue is a really, really interesting character. We've seen her storyline before in live action. Doesn't take away from.
We can get it better.
The fact that
we can definitely get it better.
Yes, and her storyline of her hating her powers because of what her powers are, you know, it's a really great storyline, and it can hit home.
Also, don't forget, she could easily be brought in through the Marvels as well, because her powers come from Miss Marvel. Well, she stole Miss Marvel's powers
when she stole Miss Marvel's powers. Yep, and she's stolen Gambit's. Like, she has the connection there with him. Like, there's the X-Men have such deep ties to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, personally,
the possibilities are really just endless.
I like to see the younger team at first. I think bringing in like a young Sunspot, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, people like that, I think would be very entertaining. Even like, I know we've already kind of seen them, but I like to see them done right. Darwin is a character that's not always known about, and I don't think they did him justice in First Class. Could be a really cool character to see, you know, them play with his powers and stuff like that. Characters like that are really the ones I'd be looking for. The ones I'd most look forward to are Gambit, Iceman, Nightcrawler, personally for me. But again, I think there's so many of them you can bring in through different avenues, and that's what I want. I don't think it's what we get, but that's what I'm really hoping for, is that with all the projects they have, I mean, 3 a year, you could do within 3 years have 9 X-Men lined up here, ready to go at a minimum. And then you can throw in the X-Men movie, and that's when you can introduce Xavier and Magneto and, you know, all the big people that you really wanted to show off in the beginning because they make you money.
Really tie all of these characters in that have been showing up throughout the years.
Yeah.
Now you can really bring them. Because
it's the recruiting process, because that's what Xavier does. He goes out, he gets these kids, he helps them, or adults, you know, they can be adults sometimes. Bringing that all in. I mean, even at the end of their movies, you can just show the back of a bald head for all I care. It's just, as long as you do it in the right way.
Yeah, 100%. But X-Men is the project that scares me the most.
Yeah, I think it scares most people.
Yeah, because I just like you said, there's a lot of diversity there in the X-Men. They represent a lot for a lot of people. Their storyline is representative of, you know, this hatred that does exist in real life. And I think that's a storyline that is worth telling. It needs to be but it needs to be handled with care. With the right director, it can be done. And I think that's the other key. The movies that shine, the movies that Marvel does right, you look at Guardians, you look at Black Panther, they bring in filmmakers that are not afraid to just do what they want and tell their story. So it's going to take the right filmmaker to come in to do X-Men and say, this is what we're doing. And and you know, that's it.
You want Guillermo del Toro to do it?
You know, I wouldn't be mad at that. The man just won another Oscar. I wouldn't be mad at that.
And he loves a good story.
Yeah.
He knows how to throw out a budget. he can throw out a budget. So he could actually fit perfectly if they want to bring him in.
Yeah, no, that actually might be good. I wouldn't be mad at that. Have Seth Rogen produce it.
Seth Rogen produce everything.
I'm telling you. The man don't miss. That man don't miss either. So I wouldn't be mad at any of it.
The duo we've been waiting for.
But this is that Rogen. Outside of the box thinking.
Yeah, 100%. That Marvel needs a little more of. I mean, we had this discussion. We don't have time to get into it. Maybe if people like this, then we can get into it another day. Seth Rogen should start doing mainstream superhero movies.
Yeah, just a couple.
Belt. Just look it up. Look it up. I mean, he's doing the Ninja Turtles, Preacher, The Boys, Invincible. He's doing a lot.
Yeah, no, he's done a lot. And then like look at his comedies. Like, ignore maybe some of the people that have been in those comedies. That's neither here nor there. But look at the comedies for what they are. You know, Superbad is still a classic.
Yeah. So, I don't know. If you guys like our Seth Rogen theories of that he should start doing mainstream superhero movies, or even our theory that he should have been the one to run the DCU, I don't know. Let us know. But we have gone a little over on time now.
We can get into that.
So, yeah. So please let us know what you think about our thoughts and theories. And, you know, tell us what you want to know, and hopefully we can respond, have back and forth with you guys, and maybe it'll lead us into other episodes of things we can talk about in this realm. But thank you for listening to this episode of the Beer and Skittles podcast. You've, again, hopefully
thank you all for listening.
And listen to the DC. Now you heard the Marvel, and then we'll get off that superhero train for a little bit and bring you some even more diverse content for you to divulge in, and hope you come back to see it.
Yeah, thank you guys.